I felt like people were just being outraged for the sake of outrage, because as I was watching it, I understood, like, okay, they're saying that all these things can be condensed into this one super slim, tiny device. I get that.
Sure.
They weren't saying we're destroying anything creative because all you need is an iPad. They're saying this can all fit into an iPad. But on the flip side, I am not, despite we call ourselves content creators, right? I don't feel like I'm really that creative of a person when it comes to like art. So I don't have an affinity for musical instruments or paint or any of those things. So I feel like it's almost unfair for me to make that judgment because I'm not that kind of person. Dan, I know you're a musician.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
I mean, I don't know that my brain's wired to immediately see something, especially an ad, and just like immediate outrage. I mean, sometimes, but like when it's something as innocuous as like that, ad that I saw. Honestly, I love hydraulic press videos on TikTok, so I'm just like, absolutely, let's crush as much things as we can.
John, how are you doing? We're back.
I'm back. It's good to be back. It's been like I feel like I haven't been here in like almost 2 months.
You were down for the count. I'm glad to see you looking healthy, vibrant.
Yeah, that was the sickest I've ever been in my entire life. Wow. I am glad to be healthy. I had my daughter brought home it was either bronchitis or RSV. I got it, turned into pneumonia, and then that just stuck around for a really long time.
That sucks. Well, listen. I'm glad you're back, and you're back in the best way because what we wanted to do was bring you back into the show with this renewed vigor and what may possibly be the best guest we've ever had. So,
I mean, at this point, it's not even like a question. I don't think anymore. Most knowledgeable, educated, the handsomest guest too. I would say too.
That's
questionable
true.
taste in sports teams, but aside from that. Is probably pretty close to the perfect guest.
These are all fair.
Dan Barbera from MacRumors. How you doing, Dan?
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. It's an exciting week.
It's good to be back. There's a lot to talk about.
Right, we've had the iPads were announced finally after roughly 2 years. We've got new iPads. Rumors of iPhone 16, rumors of iOS 18, even some news, some journalists putting out some interesting reports about some deals Apple has made recently. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Should we start with the iPads?
Let's start. Listen, if there was one thing the iPad Pros did not need more of, it was power.
That is true.
I want to hear your thought. You have the iPad Pro, you tested it. I have, from an outsider perspective, it seems like what they announced was incredible hardware. We're only getting half of the vision of what this iPad is going to be.
I think that's pretty accurate. So I've got it here, the iPad Pro. My review is dropping today. So if you're watching this episode, it's already out. So a couple things about the power. So obviously Apple announced the M4 chip, which is 6 months prior, the M3 was announced, and now we've got the M4. And my assumption was that, okay, this is going to be a warmed over M3, kind of a stopgap, in order to kind of get us onto the second generation 3nm process, because the first generation 3nm process was actually a dead end. There was no way to kind of move that forward, and the only company to use that was Apple. And basically, it seemed like Apple just wanted to get to 3nm, maybe because they wanted to say they were first, or maybe because they didn't, there was nowhere else to go with the 5nm or 4nm. So they had to get off of that. And I think that's why we didn't see the M3 in every product that Apple has, including the Mac Studio, Mac Pro, or the iPad. So we jumped to M4. It's way more powerful. It's 20% faster than the M3 in single core and 25% faster than the M3 in multi-core when you're using in Geekbench, which obviously is just synthetic benchmark. But still, that's pretty substantial for 6 months.
Do you think that this extra horsepower that this new iPad has is for new features coming, or like you said, was it more of a cost saving to move on to the second generation 3 nanometer processing. Quinn
Right,
said
I
that too,
think-
that made a real interesting sort of point with that it's not for horsepower, just for cost savings.
It's definitely cost. I mean, there's definitely cost savings there. The M3, I believe, is the most expensive M series processor Apple has had to manufacture. But the one thing about the M4 in the iPad Pro in particular is the display engine. So what Apple explained to me several times was the fact that we have 2 full resolution OLED displays in there. So it's not like half resolution and half resolution combined to make full resolution. It's 2 full resolution OLEDs, making up
Are they
that tandem
stacked on
OLED.
top of each other?
Yeah,
Is that
stacked
how
on
it
top
works?
of each other. And the person I was talking to couldn't confirm because they didn't know if it was like an actual stack or if they were like kind of offset a bit to, for the brightness level. But either way, the M3 and earlier did not have the horsepower to run 2 full resolution OLED stacked on top of each other. There was just no way the M3 or earlier could do it. So that's why the M4 is needed in particular in this iPad to run this display. Now you do get all that power as a side benefit, but I think we can all agree that power isn't something that we've felt the iPad Pro has been lacking,
Never.
since ever, right? Like 2018 iPad Pro, even to this day, feels fantastic and fast. So yeah, so the M4 was required, that display engine was required for this iPad. It does also make me wonder though, you don't put a display engine like that into a chip just for an iPad, right? Like, it makes me wonder what kind of laptop, like, is there going to be finally an OLED MacBook Pro coming that will have similar technology?
Did you get the sense that this is the iPad version of the M4 or this is just the M4?
I did not get a sense that it's an iPad version, but I feel like it's just the version. But there is that 2-step for the first time on the iPad, which is if you get a 256 gigabyte or 512, you're getting a Bins chip. So you're getting 3 performance cores instead of 4, which is 25%, obviously 25% slower or less power than if you get a 1 or 2 terabyte. So if you get one of those lower 2, you get 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you get one of the higher 2, you're getting 16 gigs. If Apple is going to make the move to 16 gigabytes minimum RAM for the computers, then we'll be seeing an exclusive version for the iPad. If they're sticking with 8 gigs, then this is just the M4 that everything's going to have.
Interesting.
Drew, have you had a chance to test out the S9 Ultra tablets that Samsung came out with like the end of last year?
Yeah, I tested that out for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did. Do you recall how like good those OLED displays are? And if so, how does that stack up to the iPad Pro? Because I loved those displays.
Yeah, those displays were really good, and they're still really good. The thing with this, I've never seen an OLED display get this bright, ever, on anything, on a TV, on any competing tablet. And, I mean, if you put it side by side with an M2, with the mini LED, it's brighter than that. Like, how often do you see an OLED that gets brighter than the LED version of, LED has always been known for brightness, and OLED's always been known to be, it's fantastic, except it doesn't get that bright. This gets so bright. So this really feels like the best display I've ever looked at.
Really?
Do we know who made this display for Apple? Is it the Samsung made display?
That's a good question. Obviously, they didn't say. Dan, do you know, based on rumors or anything?
My guess is that it would be Samsung, because that's
my
pretty
guess
much
as well.
who usually does it for them. Apple's only ever, well, in recent years, it's been Samsung or LG, but LG is for the larger, displays. Now, this is the largest OLED display that Apple has made, I believe. So,
yes.
And your thoughts on the MacBook? Rumors do suggest that we will be getting one, I believe, next year. So a OLED MacBook should be next year. So I'm excited for that if this really does look as good. I'm guessing they're still trying to work out the brightness factor. I mean, 1,000 nits is pretty bright. So I believe the mini LED was only 600. So I mean, it should it should look pretty good. And then
the
you get
HDR
1600.
1600 nits is crazy. Like
Right.
It's beautiful. It's like you're holding the sun in your hands. Like it's just absurd.
Is the verdict here? Wait and see what happens with iPad OS before getting one.
That's a good question.
Is that the general thought?
Here's what I think. If you do genuine work on an iPad, and I know there are some people out there who do. Some people out there use this as their primary computer, not just because they want to do email and spreadsheets, but because they do actual professional work using an iPad. If that's you, you will not. This would be an instant upgrade. If you need the power in an iPad, this would be an instant upgrade. Based on what you do now, it's just going to do what you do now even faster and even better, more efficiently. If you're more like someone like me, or I guess us, who I assume none of us do like our real work on an iPad, this is more of a kind of a luxury device. Like we could probably all get by with an iPad Air or even a plain iPad. We just like what's better here. If that's you, I really am thinking we're only seeing half the story. I feel like we've only seen half the story here, especially this year. I know we say it. It's like a running gag almost at this point. Anytime a new iPad Pro comes out, we're like, let's see what happens at WWDC because iPad OS is going to get better. Then it never does. It feels like
this year does feel different.
They even teased it. Tim Cook teased it at the end, saying, we've got more to tell you. We've got more to show about where we're going with the software. Stay tuned. So I'm excited and very hopeful that the iPad Pro will get software that is almost, the best word to use is like worthy of the hardware that they provided.
One of the questions that I got a lot during the iPad event was, if this is only half of the equation, why not wait to announce the whole equation at WWDC, right? Apple's certainly done hardware at WWDC before. It's just because there's so much to announce, I didn't want it to take that long, but it seemed like this could have been, let us show you the whole pie, instead of like, here's some flour, here's some sugar, and some butter. Wait till you see what this is going to taste like.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, so we've never had a WWDC before where they've had to announce what's coming in visionOS, right? So now we've got a whole new section being added in. Who knows how long this keynote's going to be? To also add in, whatever 30 minutes or so, 35 minutes of that iPad event to kind of bring that in to there as well. I feel like we have a 3-hour event. So I'm guessing it was just, let's clear this out. Let's get this out there. And this iPad was supposed to be out earlier. They just weren't able to get it out, roughly just a few weeks earlier. They just weren't able to. They pushed it back a couple of times. So I think they just wanted to clear out like that slate of hardware so they can focus purely on software. Although I'm hoping, who doesn't like new hardware, right? Dan, anything we're hearing about hardware for WWDC? Because
no, I mean it could be an updated Mac Mini. Yeah, I think at this point, the Mac Studio stuff might wait until later on in the year. It might skip M3. I don't know. The rumors are kind of all over the place. In terms of hardware, it would have just made sense for Apple, like you said, to wait until WWDC. But as Andrew alluded to, there's a lot going on. So my guess is they just, like you said, it's ready. Let's get it out there. Gives time for developers to start working on things. They can showcase more of the AI stuff that's going to happen with iOS and iPadOS 18. But a couple of things on the display manufacturer. I wanted to say this, but I wasn't totally sure, so I want to go back and look. The rumors suggested a couple of months ago that it's actually Samsung and LG. So Samsung makes the 11-inch and LG makes the 13. Obviously, I don't know that for sure because I don't think Apple's come out and said that for sure. But that was what the rumors. I thought I heard that it was going to be like a dual tandem type deal. Not to, maybe that's what they meant by tandem displays. Maybe they just put one of each companies in there. But with hardware at WWDC, I mean, right now the minor things could be, Mac Mini needs a refresh in terms of chips. I mean, I don't really know what else they could do.
At WWDC and not the iPad. It seems like that
they wouldn't. I mean, if they were gonna do Macs, it would probably be Mac Mini, Mac Pro, and Mac Studio. In which case, they probably would get the M3 But you know, there was like talks about M3 Extreme, and then that would be a whole different thing. And then
I think M3 is done. Quite honestly, I don't think we're seeing any more M3.
I'm thinking there's no. Yeah, I'm thinking there's no more hardware this year, which we you know, it's not. We've gotten used to hardware at WWDC, but that's usually not the norm. I think it's kind of split now at this point. Like some years there's some hardware, and some years there's not. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be great either way, especially with all the rumors about, you know, ChatGPT or Gemini and all that coming in.
Before we jump on all to that stuff, I just want to ask you guys quickly about the iPad event. Do you think Apple's criticism for their creative commercial was justified?
Man, I'm trying to look at it. So for me personally, I felt like people were just being outraged for the sake of outrage, because as I was watching it, I understood, like, okay, they're saying that all these things can be condensed into this one super slim, tiny device. I get that. Sure. They weren't saying we're destroying anything creative because all you need is an iPad. They're saying this can all fit into an iPad. But on the flip side, I am not, you know, despite we call ourselves content creators, right? I don't feel like I'm really that creative of a person when it comes to like art. So I don't have an affinity for musical instruments or paint or any of those things. So I feel like it's almost unfair for me to make that judgment because I'm not that kind of person. Dan, I know you're a musician.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it?
I mean, I don't know that my brain's wired to immediately see something, especially an ad, and just like immediate outrage. I mean, sometimes, but like when it's something as innocuous as like that, you know, ad that I saw, honestly, I love hydraulic press videos on TikTok. So I'm just like, absolutely, let's crush as much things as we can. I'm also under the impression, given how commercials and films work, that not all of that stuff was real, or it was a lot of stuff that was probably thrifted, you know, purchased. It's on the last legs of its life, probably going to get thrown away anyways. So maybe people aren't nearly as upset about like, oh, they actually destroyed these things or their props. But I guess a lot of people were saying that it just like kind of implies that like you no longer need these creative natural outlets, and that the iPad and it's all going to be replaced by technology, in the sense that I'm like, who cares? Like that stuff's, that's interesting. We know that musicians are not going to start using an iPad to play concerts on stage. It's not going to happen right now. Some people do. It's called a DJ. A lot of people rely on technology. I don't think that means all of these things are actually going away anytime soon. I think it's more so, look at all of the stuff that you can jam pack into this tiny, super thin device. That's obviously the message that Apple was trying to send. And I don't know. I think it was kind of ridiculous that they had to pull it. But you know, I understand. You don't want to anger everybody. So if it offended people and they felt like that was the best case, then just remove it.
I mean, the comments got so bad, Apple had to turn off comments on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
I am very much in the camp that people look for ways to offend themselves. And this definitely struck me as a way for people who wanted to get offended to be offended. I looked at the ad and I remember watching it thinking like, oh, that was pretty cool. Like, it's stuff that you can now do on an iPad. And that was where my thought on that ad ended.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a musician. Like you said, I think you said it pretty eloquently. I'm not a musician. I don't live that life, but getting offended by a commercial seems unnecessary.
Do you think Apple did the right thing by pulling it and putting out the apology?
I don't know. I think ultimately all that decisions are made of how it impacts the stock price. So if it was impacting the stock price, then 100%. If it's not, people are going to be offended by anything's going to offend somebody.
It would have been such old news by now, anyways. That they could have just said like, "Hey, that wasn't the intention. We apologize if anybody was offended." But just like this commercial, this is art. Like the things that you see being smashed, and like this is just a representation on how you can jam pack all of those artistic things into the iPad, and then moved on and could have kept it up. I think it's still up on Twitter, like under Tim Cook's tweet.
Yeah, and YouTube released it. They turned off comments. Yeah. But a lot of things at WWDC. As I check in, let's transition this back to that.
Let's do it.
This feels like the big one, right? Like I always make a joke every year. Like I hold an umbrella outside every day because one day it's going to rain. And like for me, that day reigning is going to be WWDC. Like this is the year it seems like we're going iOS, iPad OS. I can't speak for visionOS. It is going to get these changes that's going to modernize it. That it desperately needs. I mean, we know we're getting RCS. Like that alone is pretty huge. Maybe we'll be able to move icons wherever we want. That would be nuts. Maybe iPad will get multi-user support. Maybe iPad will get multi-user support. Like all of these things that I think people have been asking for. This feels like the year.
Yeah, we've heard about the icons. I've never been a guy on either platform. I get that people love like customizing their home screens. For me, it's like when I turn my phone on, I just want to get into it. I'm not turning it on to look at my home screen. I'm turning it on to get into an app. So I don't care about the home screen as much. I rarely even swipe through. I just turn it on, pull down, type in what I'm looking for, and open up the app. But I get that people want to do that.
Though. Yeah, I like people having the choice.
Exactly. I don't have any problem with choice. Yes. Obviously, one of the big ones is AI. Apple used that term more than they ever have during the iPad events, yet didn't really show much. It was interesting. Like this is the tablet. If you want to do AI, this is the tablet. They did show a couple things, like how you could in Final Cut. It was very impressive. In Final Cut, you want to just remove the background from someone in a video, just literally tap here and like instantly, like turning on a light switch, it's just done.
Which you can't do on Final Cut on desktop.
Yeah, so question about that. About that, Andrew. Is that live on the iPad now? Is that an update that's available?
It's an update that's coming for Final Cut Pro 2 for the iPad, which is not out yet. It'll be out, I believe it'll be out by the end of next month.
Is Final Cut Pro 2 just a way to get everybody who's using Final Cut in the same license for like 30 years have to buy another license?
Final Cut Pro 2 is what they're calling the iPad.
No,
it's Final Cut Pro for iPad 2.
Yeah. No, just kidding.
But that's a good question because that day is going to come when everybody who's paid
is definitely coming
$299 for the last 10 years of their job and
13 years.
Yeah.
There have been rumors for a while that Apple was in talks with Google to license Gemini.
Yep.
Their AI, and then the story broke today that Apple signed a deal with OpenAI to include ChatGPT or ChatGPT features into their OSs, iPad OS, iOS, all those kind of things. I find it interesting. First of all, it's a build versus buy discussion for Apple, right? They've invested so many billions in AI. It's surprising they don't have their own. But also those models are only successful and they've been trained by users in real time. So it also makes sense that they're using things that have been trained already. Utilizing, I don't know if you guys have seen what OpenAI showed today for the latest version of ChatGPT. It's nuts.
Yes.
Like nuts. I mean, can you imagine Siri having those things? It's the first time we will see Siri exceed capabilities of what Google has had. And that has not happened in well over a decade.
Yeah, I agree. Did you watch that, Dan? Did you see that today?
I didn't get a chance to, but I've heard about it. I've heard there's some crazy voice thing going on.
Yeah, so they've got voice.
Can you fill me in a little bit?
Yeah. It's called GPT 4.0, or letter O. So next kind of evolution of the model, multimodal. You can talk to it with voice. You can give it vision. You can basically, some of the examples they had were like, I'm holding my camera up above, like I'm doing some math homework, and it just kind of walks you through as if you had a teacher over your shoulder that can see in real time what you're doing and how you're doing it. The other impressive one to me, not that I ever used this,
that's terrifying,
was they asked for it to create a bedtime story, and it just started reading it with this normal ChatGPT voice. And they were like, can you be more, theatrical or whatever? I forget the term they used. So then it started like putting in some inflections, and they were like, no, hold on. Like, we really want you to like go super into it and like play all the characters differently. And it sounded like, a professional storyteller, or like if you were listening to Audible or something and someone was doing like a fiction where they're trying to do different voices for different characters. And like, really, it was incredible.
Yeah.
So
it's like one step closer to like the real version of the movie Her.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that's it.
So now I can automate bedtime with my kids.
Yes. Now, interestingly enough, John mentioned that it did break that Apple has signed a deal with OpenAI to use their API in iOS. But part of that was also that they continued talks with Google And there's also that Apple is working on their own AI for on-device processing that doesn't leave the phone. So it almost sounds like their approach here is going to be, if it can be done on the phone, we're going to do it on the phone or the iPad or whatever the device is. It's not going to leave. But some things will require leaving and going to the cloud. And in those cases, we'll then determine, is this a better task if they make an agreement with Google as well, for Gemini or for ChatGPT or OpenAI's API, and we'll route it appropriately, I'm guessing. So, and then there's also the rumor that Apple...
Tandem AI.
Yeah. Tandem AI, there you go. And then there's also the rumor that Apple is building their own AI server farms using M2 Ultra chips. So the excitement for me is, it seems like, obviously Google's just going to use Gemini, right? They make Gemini, they're going to use Gemini.
Yeah.
If Apple is willing and able to use multiple different models depending on what the request is, then it seems like Apple will leapfrog and become the best when it comes to AI, because they're not just limited to Gemini. They can use OpenAI if necessary. They can use their own if necessary. So it just has me wondering, like, what... It's been a long time since WWDC has been upcoming. I've just been excitedly trying to figure out, what will these features look like? How will they benefit me in my everyday life? And I don't know if that's just me. Like, I've been fascinated by the whole rise of artificial intelligence over the past 18 months or so. And I definitely see the limitations today, but where this can go in the future is pretty incredible.
So I think about that too. What are the use cases? And I think the app wasn't presented the full use cases yet. And obviously you could do things like generative AI, create an image, animate this, but even built into their mail apps. Hey, whatever assistant name, remind me to follow up with Andrew in 2 weeks on this email. And it'll just send that email for you in 2 weeks. It'll make sure no reply came in and just take care of it for you. Here's your reply. A lot of things that Google does now with AI for phone call management. So taking the call for you. I think are huge, especially hearing ChatGPT's new voice and voice inflections are crazy. Now these are all things that other services can do, but having it be native to the iPhone and probably done in device, I think there's a lot of power there. And also considering where Apple was coming from, bottom of the really assistant chain, anything is going to seem like a giant leap forward for them.
I think the most exciting part is also the integration with shortcuts, being able to build a shortcut by asking Siri with its new powered, by AI, hey, I'm looking for a shortcut that can do this, this, and this. Build it for me, as opposed to having to go and figure out how to build that yourself.
So all of this new software is going to come out on new hardware. And for everybody listening, there's a video version of this podcast. Do you guys want to see the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro? I'm not under embargo. I'm already blacklisted.
That's true. Yes. So rumors are that there's going to be some new designs coming this year, and you're able to give us a sneak preview right now.
Yes, everybody listening, if you want to go back and watch the video, you can see these two for yourselves. But here is the pink version of the iPhone 16. You see the Apple logo kind of glistening there. And if it looks familiar to anybody, if you want to know what this looks like, just look at a Samsung S24 and A24 from the back, and that's pretty much what you're looking at. There are a few big changes that people are going to notice. So the camera lenses on the 16 are no longer diagonal. Presume now they're stacked on top of each other vertically. Presumably, the iPhone 16 with spatial video would be my assumption as to why that's been done. A bit of an odd note here. It was like a rectangle that housed the cameras. This outside of oval, but to the left of that oval is where the flash is. Seems like it's going to be a disaster for case manufacturers. But that's kind of off to the side. For folks that can see this,
including Apple, right? Apple makes cases why do you have it over there? It's all by itself.
That seems, if there's anything, these are just dummy models, I should say, too. These aren't the actual phones.
Right.
But these are based off the CAD models. So I expect this to be what's released. Also, action button now across the lineup, and a capture button as well, which very well might not be a capture button, it might be an AI button, located on the right side below the volume, or below the power button. Could be interesting, I think. We don't know what that button's going to be, but a button that just takes pictures seems like a wasted opportunity.
Where did you get the... When you said it could be an AI button, was that based on any rumor or just your guessing? Or
based on my guessing, if Apple had added new hardware to this generation of phone, why would they do it? Right.
Well, current rumors suggest that it is right now just camera specific. But I mean, we also have the action button, so I wonder if something changes there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with you, John. I would be shocked if it was just the camera. I think it is going to be something that like changes depending on the app that you're in, changes its functionality.
I would assume too. No size differences with the screen is expected. Also, no higher refresh rate is expected either. The back is now a color infused glass, so it's different, slightly different colors. I'm looking at the pink version here for those who can't see, but the pinks are slightly different. It's very recognizable as an iPhone. It's an evolutionary design that we've seen for the past many years. But it does look nice. I also, in case anybody's curious, there's a plus done up in black. And definitely the flash is more pronounced on kind of the black color. So there are those.
Is the flash looking bigger than the current?
It's optical illusion. It does. Maybe it does look bigger. I don't know.
Okay.
That I just don't know. The Pro story is kind of interesting, I think. So, because these sizes are
16 Pro and Pro Max.
16 Pro, 16 Pro Max. I've always been kind of the Max guy, but big changes, I think, size-wise, to what's coming. Let me just pull this up, make sure I've got this proper. Okay. So, from a size standpoint, the 16 Pro has kind of always been the same size, screen dimensionally. It's been 6.1 inches. We're going to see a jump to 6.3 inches, so certainly a larger screen. The Pro Max going from 6.7 to 6.9. So, I mean, these are big phones. And I think
is it a larger screen by reducing the bezel, or is it a larger screen by making a bigger phone?
So that's exactly what I was going to say. I thought it was going to be a larger screen by reducing the bezel. So let me show you compared to my 15 Pro Max, and you can see where that extra comes from. It is a physically larger device.
Ever so slightly. Okay.
It doesn't look like that full, 0.2. I look like there's probably some bezel reduction, but it's also a larger device. Which is interesting, I think. And then the other same features that I just talked about are here. These dummies do have 2 physical buttons for volume. This doesn't have that unified capacitive button that was removed last year and then maybe this year. So that might be a change. The capture button is certainly still here. I've always gone for the bigger phones, but the slightly larger Pro seems real good. The Pro Max seems like if you're waiting for an iPad mini and you're not, don't want to deal with the jelly scroll for a little while longer, this is a real good way to go. It feels really big. So that was,
man. I always get the Pro Max, but it just feels like a monster sometimes. Like, so now it's even bigger.
Yeah.
Man, why?
And assuming the specs are the same, right? Assuming it gets the 5x zoom or whatever, if the zoom changes, assuming it's spec for spec and saying aside from battery size and screen, I think the Pro is going to be probably the way a lot of people decide to.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be the same, and that's the disappointing part. Because I'm sitting there right there with you. I'm sitting right there with you, thinking, I would probably go 6.3. Seems like the sweet spot, right? Because
yes, I hadn't heard this.
Well,
yeah.
So obviously, well, aside from the display size and the battery, the cameras, it's supposed to be the Pro will now get the current telephoto that you get on the Pro Max, and the Pro Max is actually looking to go up. Yeah, the 5X is actually going to get, I don't know what X it's going to be at, what they're going to call it, but instead of 70 millimeters, now you're going to go up to 120 millimeters, which is pretty wildly different. You're almost doubling the focal length.
Well,
so right now you're at 70, and
what is that, like an 8x?
You know,
like roughly an 8x.
Well, yeah, probably 8 or 9.
Because 10x would be 140, and you said 120.
In theory, if that's how they do it, I mean, so that's some of the differences, and then there's I don't know if the ultra wide lens, I don't recall off the top of my head. Ultra wide lens is getting a massive upgrade. I don't know if that's coming to both. My guess is it is. But actually, no, I'm pretty sure that is also a 15 Pro or a 16 Pro Max feature.
Really?
That's going to be a 48 megapixel. After all this, man, I get these things so confused. I will say one of the rumors is that you will get a beefed up 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. Which one that's going on, it constantly seems to be changing. So, I mean, I can check for you just to make sure. But
what's interesting about those zoom ranges, though, is I think most people just think of the furthest zoom equals better phone, better camera. But if you have the Pro Max today, and you really are taking just 3x photos, the Pro will actually give you that optical 3x as opposed to the cropped in, and vice versa. So it's like, which one is better for your individual use case? Because it's not just giving you the furthest away. Like, I'm almost what the hell do I need to 8 to 10x zoom into? I like the 5x. The 5x seems like a good range. If like my kids are playing sports or whatever.
I'm all about that zoom. I need it. Give me more zoom is better.
Okay, so just to be, it does seem like it's going to be on the 16 Pro Max only. It will feature an 8-part hybrid lens.
What the hell?
And that will be
lame.
And then both phones are expected to get
the ultra wide. Just give it a higher resolution.
Well, yeah. So you're jumping up from what is it, 12 now to 48. So it should really help low light environment with ultra wide. I'm guessing that the macro lens should also benefit a lot from that. It'll use pixel binning like you had before, but apparently it's going to go to 4 pixels. So it's going to be super pixel now is what they're. I mean, these are just again rumors, but then with the 16 Pro, it seems like you're going to get that 5x optical and at least 25x digital zoom. That's pretty good. What do we top out at now? Isn't it just 15? I think it's just 15 digital, right?
Yeah, I'm so curious.
Turn your iPhones on.
Right. 25x. I go to 25x right now.
Oh, okay, so that's
you're on the Max, though.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the Pro.
True.
The Pro is going to stay the Pro is going to stay at what basically the Pro is getting the same cameras as what you have on the Pro Max.
Got it.
So that's super periscope lens.
Do they seem thicker at all by any stretch?
No, they feel almost identical.
Because the reason I asked is because last year Apple said utilizing the more space that we have in the Pro Max, we're going to put this tetraprism in that we can't fit in the regular Pro. But now it seems like now they are fitting it in the regular Pro.
So I guess you can for those that are on video, 16 Pro Max dummy versus the 15. Obviously, the weight isn't accurate because these aren't actual phone, but the dimensional sizes should be what gets released. So, I mean, to my very untrained eye, these look essentially identical. Maybe even the 16 might look a little thinner. But yeah, pretty comparable thicknesses.
Well, that's
anything
exciting.
new? I think so too. I think we should see a lot of stuff. Anything new we're expecting with watchOS?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Anything new?
Like watchOS or what's coming in visionOS? Are they going to finally unlock those two environments that are just chilling there?
Yeah,
that's visionOS too.
I feel like visionOS is more of the interesting topic than watchOS. I don't really know many watchOS features that are going to be kind of crazy. I wonder if that's all also going to be saved for the Watch 10. So because that's supposed to be a pretty significant redesign, apparently. I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of features and all that. I mean, it's also supposed to be getting some new health features. But with visionOS, I am fully expecting, I don't want to say can confirm, but I'm fully expecting a pretty big update. I mean, it is visionOS 2. Yeah, I mean, think about all of the things that we have been complaining about. Like what are I fully expect Apple to just be going down that list.
Even just 4 months after release, I mean, you think it's doing that like full overhaul that soon?
It's not. I mean, that's not going to like visually look different, but I do think a lot of the things that we expected to be there at launch, you know, even just a better guest mode, like the guest mode that you have now for people is not great. You know, just things like that. Being able to just the stuff that we all complained about that we did not enjoy. I fully expect to just be changed and adding in all of these like new quote unquote features, even though they're basically just giving us what we should have had from the beginning. But and then, you know, on top of the AI stuff, I'm guessing a lot of the AI stuff should be making its way on down. There were also lots of reports about the Apple Pencil, the current one that just got released, the Apple Pencil Pro with the haptic engine and the squeeze gesture. There was lots of rumors about that being available for visionOS, and it didn't happen. But my guess is that might be something that will be talked about at WWDC. So a new input method using the Apple Pencil, it needs the haptic engine and it needs those gestures in order to make more sense with visionOS. So that's also something I'm expecting to be talked about. And if it doesn't, then I don't know where those rumors came from. Sometimes that happens, but that's something that really picked up a lot of steam over the last month or so.
I just took a look. The original Apple Watch was released in April, and they did announce watchOS 2 just a few months later at WWDC. So would it be unprecedented for them to talk 2.0 so soon after a hardware release?
You were questioning whether there's going to be a 2 at all.
Not at all, but like, would they release it now? That's so soon.
I'd be shocked. I would be really shocked if they didn't call it, you know, visionOS 2. But yeah, I mean, I guess you're, you know, I can understand the skepticism, though Andrew just said that, you know, I feel like the Watch and Apple Vision Pro are very much similar products in the same way that, you know, they're launched and kind of marketed towards as something like, you may not find this useful now, but, you know, look at everybody with the Apple Watch. Everybody wears one. Pretty much, if you have an iPhone, you probably have an Apple Watch, and so I don't know that that's going to be the case for Vision Pro, but it could be in the future when it gets slimmer and cheaper.
Interesting. Couple other small bits before we wrap up the show. There were rumors last week before the iPad event, actually the day before the iPad event, that Apple was teaming up with a U.S. auto manufacturer to really didn't know what. They just were quoting supply chain sources, which has really seemed like almost like a non-story. But then they kind of came out that auto manufacturer is actually Rivian, or allegedly was Rivian. And so there are a lot of conflicting reports about what this was going to be. So all the information that was really given was that there's supply chain indicators, nothing else. So in my understanding, it could be a few things. It's not a purchase of Rivian. I think that at least right now seems like nothing that's being considered, although who knows? The stock price is certainly depressed. I think it's currently trading around $10.20. So, you know, for Apple could probably buy it for the revenue they make in like 16 minutes. But really, if it could be like $1 billion every few hours. But either Apple's looking to take what they learned from Project Titans on autonomy and license that to other manufacturers, potentially. Apple taking over center stack for auto manufacturers, which seems unlikely. Rivian's been pretty staunch about saying that they want to own that experience. There's not even CarPlay being offered. I think what makes the most sense is the autonomy play for a lot of manufacturers. Doing it yourself has proven, aside from Tesla, relatively close to a fool's errand. We have conflicting technologies. We've got autopilot. We've got Blue Cruise. You know, there's all kinds of Super Cruise, all kinds of different options, and some are good and fine with some, but really nothing is a true level 4 autonomous technology yet, and maybe Apple has that.
My thoughts on that would be it has to be both. I don't think unless Apple's not putting its name on it, there's no way Apple's going to put its name on something that has to do with the car and that car does not include CarPlay. I think that would be really strange for them.
True, yeah.
So I'm guessing that if it was Rivian, they're gonna have to remove that policy that they have where they want to do it on their own. And if it means Apple comes in and saves the company by giving them money to be able to stay afloat and help with supply chain, I think you have to do it. Otherwise, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It also makes plenty of sense for Lucid to be the other car manufacturer that absolutely should do it, considering that reports are that it's not doing super hot in terms of sales and whatnot. I don't know. I feel like I hear something about Lucid every other week about how sales are bad. I love the cars. I think they're really good. They have a former Apple exec doing software design, so it just makes sense. And they already offer CarPlay, and it's a pretty crazy experience in terms of the 3 to 4 different. I think it's 3 different screens that you have there. So I mean, and you've owned both of them. I mean, they're good cars. I feel like if Apple wants to put its name behind something and then I just feel like that's more of an Apple looking car as well. Though I am a huge fan from a distance of Rivian and would like to get one. Currently a little out of my price point, but it keeps dropping. So I don't know.
What do you want to see?
I'd be curious
as a Rivian owner, what would you want to see happen?
I have a second screen I installed in my car so I could get CarPlay. Really? I could start there. But I would love to see the autonomy assistance there. I think what we're seeing now with Tesla's version 12 being really good. I mean, even at 90% close to a level 4 autonomy, there's still a lot of use cases where even a level 3.5 is impressive. Rivian's not going to get there on their own. Like they're just not going to.
What do they offer now? And how does that stack up to like Tesla even before 12?
It's called Driver Plus. It's driver assistance. It's kind of advanced lane keep and adaptive cruise control.
Okay.
And it works only on freeways, and if there's a sharp turn, it deactivates. It's fine. It's nice for kind of long straight drives, but it's like what autopilot was maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
It's not great. It's fine. I'm glad that it's there. I use it, but it's not great. But that would make a lot of sense. And your point about Apple kind of wanting to put their mark on something makes a lot of sense. Apple's not really in the licensing game so much. You don't have Samsung making phones with iOS on it. Right. So I think that's probably something that's if there's smoke, you're probably right with that. And I hadn't considered that.
I mean, I could be totally wrong, and there's probably been indicators where that's happened, but I just feel like it feels weird if they don't. Like if it's like, oh, this is an Apple and Rivian partnership, but there's no CarPlay. Like I don't know, how do you do that?
Especially weird.
Especially the next gen CarPlay, which I really want to see. I feel like Rivian would be a great car for that to be implemented across.
And there's been like essentially no news on that at all.
Yeah, I mean, technically Porsche and Aston Martin, I believe, were the two.
But Porsche isn't even doing it all the way. Porsche limited some of the stuff.
So apparently a lot of companies are kind of pissed that, like, I don't know, like I think Mercedes is one that's just like, nah, we're not doing that at all. Yep. And I think they wanted to keep like the Mercedes kind of feel and like but like Apple did allow for Porsche to like be able to add custom, like to make it feel like a Porsche. So you can work with that. I feel like Apple will let you work with them to like, hey, if you want like the logo to appear when you turn on the car and like just specific things that are, kind of your design, but then we take over everything else, we can still do that. But I don't know. I feel like it's really dumb to not offer that. People love CarPlay. Lots of people have iPhones. I think people sometimes make decisions on their next vehicles based on whether it has CarPlay or not.
They sure do.
So
can I throw just one crazy thing out here at the very end of the show? For everybody who's stuck around to listen to this long.
Please.
Do you guys follow any of this? I'm giving a point for this. Any of the celebrity blind items that get revealed by this person called Crazy Days and Nights? Anybody that's not familiar?
No clue.
I don't even know what that means.
Okay.
It just made me feel super old.
No, so they're blind items like, hey, like this person at the Met Gala did something crazy. And then they'll say, okay, that person was Drake. They reveal these things. There was a blind item that came out where the name isn't revealed, then ultimately was, that this billionaire who owns a very large estate in Hawaii was hosting many, many, many U.S. Congress people at his home in a lobbying attempt. And it was revealed that was indeed Mark Zuckerberg. And the lobbying attempt was to allow Meta to buy TikTok.
What?
Which was very
what?
Very interesting. I'm just gonna leave that out there. I don't even have to discuss it, but just kind of an interesting
incredibly interesting.
Meta getting access to that sheer amount of data on people would be a thing. That would definitely be a thing.
Wow,
that would not.
I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna call John right now. I'm gonna put a bold prediction out there. Push comes to shove, TikTok will not sell. They will just pull out of the U.S. So we'll pull out of the U.S. where only 10% of their users exist.
How do you feel? Wait, only 10% of the users are in the... I did not know that.
10% of the user base of TikTok is U.S.
Oh, but that information is so valuable. There's been...
I know. But I'm saying for ByteDance to say, hey, we're going to just sell our algorithm because the United States government says so. No. Keep an algorithm.
How devastating would that be to Apple and Google for phones? Or just Apple, Google, Samsung, anyone who makes a phone. Do you think that would
for me? I'm a content creator. I need TikTok. I like putting my content out there.
I don't think it have any impact on it. People are still going to buy their phone and use them with something else.
Yeah.
But what if it was?
You're not going to stop buying
there were reports. There were reports that like Apple just might not allow, TikTok on the App Store. So like
they're not breaking any App Store rules.
I know there were just thoughts out there, crazy things.
No,
I can't imagine that. I don't know how you can force a company to sell, especially if that company is not in the U.S. I don't even want to begin to try to learn the legal and political things behind it.
But even if they force someone to buy a company, you can certainly force someone to sell.
Sure,
it's for the privilege of doing business in the country.
Yeah, I don't know how that all, seems a little unfair, but also what's going on for real with the app, who knows? But I feel like they're probably going to sell because, I mean, God, the amount of, especially if it's Zuckerberg, how much do you think that would go for? That would have to be the largest sale ever.
Money does talk.
I mean, could you imagine Meta having access to that data? And that's a lot of data, obviously. Right?
A lot of data, right.
That's why the foreign governments are so interested in it.
And the algorithm, they would be getting the algorithm. TikTok's algorithm is goated among all the others. It's incredible. They're going to get that? Wow.
We'll see. It was just lobbying is just happening. Does not mean it will happen. But it's a little bit of interesting inside baseball, if true, from behind the scenes.
Yes, very interesting. I got to go publish my iPad Pro review. So we got to do it. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.
And that is it for this edition of Geared Up. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, you can catch John and I on YouTube. I'm at youtube.com/gearlive and John is at youtube.com/John4Lakers. Feel free to head over and subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on all the latest tech. Speaking of subscribing, you can subscribe to Geared Up in your favorite podcast app if you haven't done so already. Just search Geared Up, that's 2 words, not one, in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, Overcast, or really wherever you choose to listen. If you like what we do, please consider leaving us a rating and review. It really helps other people find the show. Geared Up is a Gear Live podcast, and you can see more from us at gearlive.com. Thank you so much for listening. For John Rettinger, I'm Andrew Edwards, and we'll catch you in the next episode.